Buddy, hello Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. This is a game I won about an hour, maybe 2 hours ago, about an hour and a half ago, something like that. At the black pieces, game in 5 minutes per side. Let's take a look. It's just standard e pawn opening. Played after knight f3 and made the Petrov defense, also known as the Russian game. These are moves that are well trodden within the Petrov defense. Even queen e2 is still uh, well within range of what's usual in this opening, and queen e7 is the most common way to protect the knight on e4 rather than bishop f5 or pawn to d5. d3, knight c5, then swaps on e7. It's kind of, we're here. This is a queenless middle game. Black's doing okay. He's got some development in place. White does too. It's a game. So I think my knight on c5 is unusually placed, and my opponent wants to investigate that with pawn to d4. Knight to a6, and then bishop to g5. Knight to b4, threatening the fork between king and rook. Knight takes c2 check. d5 is a strong move to keep the center. This is a move that makes things more closed. Also keeps an eye on e4 should otherwise white's c3 knight begin to wander. Rook e1, putting a lot of pressure on the bishop at e7. He is now being attacked twice and protected only once. There's no way to protect him again, but both pawn to f6 could make an issue about the placement of white's g5 bishop, and bishop to e6 just sort of closes things down on the file, and then black is fine. I went bishop to e6 because it establishes a nice chain of pawn, bishop, pawn towards the center of the board. And it's just very sturdy. Also develops a piece. So there we go. Bishop to e6. Bishop takes e7. King takes e7. And with pawn to a3, white attacks with pawn to a3, and black must move back to a6. Other moves are going to lose this knight. Other moves on the board would have lost the knight. These aren't in because, of course, they're on the wrong color. So my opponent moves knight to g5. It's an aggressive move. It's a move that applies more pressure to e6. And overall, I'd say as a competitor, I'm okay with it because I think knight to d7, well, it develops a piece. And now we see, though, the evaluation bar, torch 4, considers knight to d7 not the greatest move for black. To that effect, perhaps h6 was a better option for black. Knight to d7, knight takes e6, pawn takes c6, rook f8 is interesting. I think it demonstrates that I have a good understanding of initiative. If white wants to capture on h7, and I can recapture on f2, and then you check here, does white have any interesting or definitely winning options directly thereafter? Pawn for pawn is okay, but if the bishop at h7 can then, win black's queen or something, then that's not okay. You'll oftentimes find opponents playing a move like this, pawn to f3, to try to solve this attack by black, and then you almost feel the energy the person's trying to really get to that h7 square and run away with some material. Pawn to h6, rook e2, knight c7. The doubled rooks on the e file are strong. I happen to sort of make my way to playing knight c7, which is fine because now the knight protects on e6 in addition to black's king, and black can pursue other avenues of attack or find a way to maybe even pad the defense of e6 yet again with, for instance, rook f6. Knight b6. Pawn to b4. And knight to c4. Trades on c4 is fine. This is kind of like a game occurs sometimes. It's just kind of flows, you can tell this by looking at it. Even on the way to this first break, and we talked about that. Oh, we're about to talk about that rather. But then, it's a little gradual decline in white's position. It doesn't happen all at once. This is a nice, steady flow with a steady black lead increasing after the first break. After the break. I wonder, is break really a chess term? I'm not sure. Sometimes you call it a break if the position's even and then someone drops a knight. The opponent picks it up. That was the break. Not sure how official that is as a chess term. Anyway, knight c5 and rook to f6. Rook e3. Here's the break. Rook e3. It looks like a fine move. I'm not exactly sure what it would accomplish, except that I'll take it because knight d5 check attacks rook and king both, and black wins the exchange on e3. And a pawn because rook takes d4 check is fantastic. Fantastic. Where did that come from? And a pawn because rook takes d4 check adds that pawn. Rook to d1. Knight to e4. And then rook to g6. Just movement mostly. The rook gets out of the way of white's f2 knight's line of attack and finds a space on a1. sooner or later black is going to have an opportunity to double rooks on the second rank. White protects with rook c3, so I'll take the time to grab a pawn on h2, thank you very much. And then rook h1 sends White's king back from whence thou came. Rook to f1, threatening a forced checkmate. White misses the opportunity to sneak out of the checkmate, and then rook to b1 check allows White no alternative. King to a2, rook a1 check, king to b2, rook b1 checkmate. It was a great game. I thought my opponent played well and strong. Let's see that my opponent played a strong game, over 80% accuracy, and I played a very strong game, over 90% accuracy. And overall, I felt good about the game and how it ended up. That's all probably for today, folks. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.